Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Budget and Finance Committee meeting, our first Budget and Finance Committee meeting related to the 2023 budget. And I'll start the discussion. I'll open the floor up and start the discussion, if you guys don't mind. This is going to be it as far as our participants tonight. Obviously, we don't have somebody to sit in chair number 8. Number 6 is not with us tonight, and number 5 is not with us tonight. So we are it for this session tonight. The way I wanted to start off, and certainly we're going to turn the floor over to the executive and the treasurer, as we often do, but I just want to remind all of you about some of our tools here. We have the year-over-year department by departmental changes. We have the existing and proposed tax rates that the initial run of the budget will affect, unless we make some adjustments to proposed tax rates. And we have a printout here, so that we didn't have to go in, and I know some of us like to do that line by line and see what were the major changes in each department. Sean has gone ahead and done that within each department, and it should, dovetail exactly with this, by department number in numerical order. First, want to direct your attention to the second page of the county, the department by department, year over year. And just give you some vitals that we're dealing with in this budget here, if you haven't already surmised them on your own. If you look down towards the bottom of the second page, last year we used $3.7 million of fund balance to balance the budget. If you recall, 2 years prior, we were at like $26 million. We went up about $1.5 million last year to make sure that nobody got a tax increase, and we did it by using fund balance. Now let me just tell you a little bit about where our fund balance is for perspective purposes. We ended 20. We have that cooked in a Bonadil statement at just under 17 million, so let's call it 17. Sean has done an audit of the 21, which he did last April. That has us just shy of 20, so let's call it 20. And let me refresh your memories as far as what 21 did for us. In 21, our sales tax goal was like 31.5. And we did over 40 million in sales tax. And, and it looks like, wow, 8 million. Look at, but obviously we don't get all that 8 million. We only get 57% of it, right? Because we share it with everybody else. But the point being is nearly an $8.5 million overage in sales tax over budget contributed about $3 million to our fund balance as of year-end 21. Not on a Bonadil statement, on an audit. So here we are in 22, and we're tracking, we got a $34,250,000 sales tax goal, and we're tracking about 43 million. So again, we're looking probably at something by the time we finish our 22 audit, where that $20 million fund balance is up in a range of 23 million. Just so we know what we're playing with fund balance here, a more up-to-date figure than what we have. There's room to play there, obviously, and that's why I'm making you aware of it. The executive and the treasurer have proposed using 4.2 million of fund balance to balance this year's budget, which is a $500,000 increase, obviously, year over year. And it's leading right now to a proposed tax increase. The tax cap is 228? What is it?
2.2.
Just 2.2. It was 2.2. And after making adjustments, they got it down to 0.98. which right now, and it's thoroughly my intention to find a way to eliminate this $304,000 if we can, excuse me. And I think we're all, the only reason I said aye is I think we are all on that same page, because we've been talking all year about not trying to allow for a tax increase at the end of this year, given the economic climate. So, if you now look at this sheet, the tax rates, you will see that 8 of 11 municipalities, as presented, are going to experience a decrease. 3 of them are going to experience an increase, and we know what contributes to this. It's a repeat story year over year. It's a drop in equalization ratio. And we know that the drop in the equalization ratio is a function of the average sale price of homes in those municipalities. And we do know that prices of homes went up in 2021 and 2022 due to the pandemic. So it stands to reason why some of them might have come down. Prices got inflated, and so the value of properties that moved in those municipalities was obviously much greater than what had been experienced prior to that. So today I talked to Sean and I said, Sean, how much money, and so we're budgeting $39 million in this budget for sales tax right now. The $39 million is an increase from $34,250. So, you do do the math. 4 million, 4.5, whatever the heck it is, 4.7. 4.7. And so, we've already taken some play out of sales tax. Obviously, for a couple of years, one was 31.5, we did 40, it was 34,250, we're going to do 43. We're kind of cruising, 8-9 million over our target the last several years. So that's certainly, something to consider. But the minute we ratchet it up to 39, I don't know, I think we're all kind of a mind that the 43, 44 we're going to end up with this year, sooner or later the train's going to stop. But obviously, even if we realize next year what we realize this year, say it's 43, 44, we're only going to have a gap of about, 4 or 5 million instead of 8, 9 that we've been experiencing the past few years, given our budget figure. So, I know our discussions all year have been centered around the idea of trying to eliminate any tax increase for any municipality. In my estimation, the first step in doing that is eliminating the $304,000 levy that we have incorporated in this budget. Now, there are 3 areas we can do it in as a legislature before we go down line by line and pare things out of people's potentially departmental budgets. Our 3 faucets are sales tax, fund balance, and if we wanted to, contingency, which is only $225,000. But it is something we could put at 0, and anytime we needed money, take it out of fund balance for emergencies next year. Just throwing that out on the table. So today I asked Sean, knowing all this, I said, Sean, because this is going to come up, how much more do we need in this budget to eliminate tax increases for the 3 municipalities who appear to be targeted for them right now? And Sean did some math and said $1 million more will knock off the Charleston and Root tax increases. Okay, if we can find another $1 million. Now, there's a place we can probably find it right away. We can jack sales tax up to 39.5, and in fact, it's been imparted to me by both the executive and the treasurer that they set it at 39, figuring we might monkey with that and increase it a little bit. So they're already I don't want to say gambling, but they're already betting on the fact that we're probably going to touch that faucet. So there's $500,000 there. Now it starts to get a little dicey. Now that $500,000, obviously, right there, in and of itself, that's $500,000. We know how the sales tax goes. We're going to get 57% of it, or roughly 60% of it, or $300,000. That move alone will virtually knock out this $304,000 levy. Now the next question is where do we find another $500,000? Well, we can easily say, well, let's jack up the fund balance figure that we're going to use here, another $500,000, and let's plug in $4.7 million. Okay, now and those two moves alone would knock out the Charleston and Root increases, but would not knock out the City of Amsterdam increase. We're going to need another $500,000 to knock out the City of Amsterdam's increase. Keeping in mind that all three of those increases are things that are all predicated on something that's out of our control and more in the municipality's control, if they had the funds to do a re-equalization or something of that nature, and we know that costs money. So what we have to decide, I think, is how far are we willing to go on some of these adjustments. I suppose we could also gain $1 million by increasing sales tax from 39 to 40, okay, and propose that, which is still going to be less than what we've been running the last few years, 43, 44 million. But as you can see, we're getting closer to gambling with these moves, because we can't be sure, that we're going to continue to realize 43, 44 million in sales tax. If history teaches, we will realize that and more, because it seems to have been increasing the last several years. So, that's what I have to say as far as, what we can do. And I think we all really want to eliminate tax increases for everybody if we can, but I don't think we should do it in a way that makes us make a reckless move with our own numbers here. I think it's going to start getting reckless if we jack our fund balance usage up to 4.7, knowing that 3 years ago it was down to 2.6. I understand it's the taxpayers' money, and we should probably, try to spend it down a little bit so that we can prevent more hurt to people's wallets. But I also feel like we're not, we're not the omnipotent money source in these people's lives, that it's our ultimate responsibility to make sure that they don't, that things out of our control and their control, that we spend our money to eliminate it. Legislator Patel, I saw a hand up.
Yeah. So when it comes down to it with me, it all ends up with fund balance, no matter which way you slice it, the three ways that you talked about. It's going to affect our fund balance now, or it's going to affect our fund balance in 365 days. Correct? Our fund balance has grown, I don't want to say exponentially, but 3 years ago we were at $7 million, right? And we were concerned then. I don't agree that you're going to see a slide in sales tax, or there's a big risk in that, because everything that you buy has sales tax on it. Everything that you buy, whether it's a Home Depot, Price Chopper, the shoe store, the gasoline store, the candy store, the ice cream shop, okay? All those prices have gone up, and we're based on a percentage of that. And I think that's, what's driving it. We can say, look, we enjoyed the increase in the sales tax on gasoline, and that's come down some. It's going to go back up. But the sales tax from regular sales is a big component of that also. So I don't see a risk in increasing the use of sales tax. I don't see a risk in reducing the contingency budget, because in essence, when we run out of contingency money,
Right.
we're going to take it out of fund balance if we need it anyways. That's the way it goes. The only difference is that it would take, I believe, 6 votes to do that rather than 5. Is that correct?
I think so.
So, I mean, I don't see a lot of, historically, we make some cuts, but it doesn't amount to much.
Right.
The meat and potatoes of it is adjusting for sales tax and using fund balance. And in my mind's eye, basically the same thing, coming from the same pot. So I would like to see that we reduce everybody's, including the city of Amsterdam's, to 0, and we increase the sales tax to $39 million or $39.5, okay?
That ain't gonna, look, just, it's at 39. We need to do some combination of sales tax and fund balance to gain $1.5 million.
Right.
So where are you willing to go?
I'm willing to increase the amount of fund balance that we use.
What numbers?
Because
That's what I want to,
we're at 4.2, I can see 4.7.
So you get $500,000 there and $1 million from sales tax, because that would take care of it.
I think that I would be comfortable with that, and I think, we had this discussion before, people pay their taxes, and there's no reason for us to keep on building when we're at $20 or $23 million worth of fund balance.
Those glasses do work.
It's a good optic. No pun intended.
Maybe smart.
Brian, I know you're thinking about something to say.
So, you're thinking at the end of 2022, potentially 22 million?
22, 23. And Sean, you can confidently say that, right? I mean, based on the patterns that I was just bringing up. You know, we've been netting about 3 million after realizing 8 million more in sales tax than our goal.
I haven't looked at where all the departments fall, so I really can't comment that it's definitely would be too.
So if we say the same.
Yeah, I'm confident, yeah,
Let's say
we
we
will
stay-
say that, yes.
Stay with the same trend. So at 22 million fund balance, that's 16% of the budget. That's a pretty high percentage. What does the state recommend, 10 typically?
10 to 15%.
So, we're a little on the high side, so
Right.
my opinion is, I mean, you can tweak sales tax if you want. I don't have a problem with that. I would rather see it coming from fund balance, just because we're continuing to grow that. And like I've said before, I don't want to continue to overtax, which we're not trying to do that, but that's what happens in these budgets. It's a huge animal, it's hard to contain. So when we see this, I think we need to turn it back the other way and, zero wallow. Especially, and I don't think we need, I don't want to set a precedent of doing this every year, because I think you're right. I think the towns have a responsibility for their equalization rate, but with the economy the way that it is this year, fuel costs the way that they are this year, I think this is a great time with the fund balance continuing to grow to use it to zero those out.
Keeping in mind, it will be the second year in a row that we've
Sure.
gone beyond a certain point that we were comfortable with to make sure of this.
It's also been 2 years of
Making
hard
money.
times. Well, making money
Yeah,
hard times for
Yeah.
everyone.
The other thing is, we also have other revenues that are increasing or will increase. I know that Matt and I had a question this morning about, what's coming off of pilot and going into full taxable. And by the way, that should affect equalization rates also, right?
No.
No. But you have that, we're talking about 160 apartments being built in the town of Amsterdam that's going to be taxable. We're seeing growth with new buildings. So, we really haven't ever been able to plan for that, but we're seeing those increases now. Will it continue? I don't know, but I think those are some of the things. I think fund balance, or not fund balance, but the pilot programs, we've already seen some of those turnover, like Target and Beach Nut. And that we've experienced probably $300,000-$400,000 increase.
Yeah, the Target one is a little dicey because of an assessment issue, which we remember, but certainly the beach outside, yeah.
I'm sorry, yes, legislator.
I hear a lot of what you're saying, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And I think one of the other things that we have kind of got away from a little bit lately is we haven't gone out and bonded any projects. And sure, there's some projects that we might be looking at that need to be also be done. And we should be also looking at, we're gonna do those projects, are we gonna bond them or not bond them and use some of the money? I mean, because we can do all that we're doing here, and then next thing you know, we're bonding like crazy on this side, and it's really not helping us.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, if we go into fund balance, even another $500,000, up to 4.7, to make this work. If something came along and they needed, we had to make a decision whether to take money out of the fund balance to fund it or to bond it. I would be in favor of bonding at that point, because I mean, I don't want, we just can't keep going into this well.
I really wish that every department that we had in the county was listening to the conversation that we're having and understanding what we're going through to do this, and then everyone being on the same page saying, you know what, I turned the budget in for this much, we can squeeze a little bit more out of here, we can squeeze a little bit out of that, and that we're all on the same page working for the same goal.
I do want to solicit an opinion from the treasurer about, obviously, this is going to happen some way or another. I want to get your take on it as a toucher and feeler of numbers every day. What you feel about us perhaps jacking up sales tax from 39 to 40 and jacking fund balance up from 4.2 to 4.7. Or doing $750 apiece, or something of that nature to make this $1.5 million figure. I don't want to take it all out of one. If we're going to do, I want to do some combination of both, even though in some way, shape, or form they're tied to each other because the excess sales tax goes into the fund balance.
Honestly, if you're going to get the city to zero, you're going to, and only increasing sales tax 500, that only gives you 285 net. So you're going to have to go to like 5.5 fund balance to get the city to zero.
5.5.
Or increase the anticipated sales tax.
Because increasing sales tax 500,000 doesn't give you 500,000. It only gives you 285.
Yeah, but I mean, essentially though, that knocks out the 304, right? I mean, give or take $15,000.
You still need another 1.1.
Right.
You take all of the contingency, that's 225. You're still down to 900,000 we need.
Right.
So you add.
So now with that 900.
5.1%.
So now, if that leaves 900, and we do $1 million in sales tax, we're going to realize 6 of that, right, or 570 of it. So then that only leaves another 4 to take out of fund balance. So why would it go from 4.2 to 5.5?
You're going to be definitely over 5, unless you plan on cutting departments.
Well, I'm
Unless you're going to increase sales tax more than 500.
I'm saying $1 million. Say we increase sales tax $1 million.
That's going to give you a little less than. So give you about 570.
570.
Okay, you still need another $1 million.
All right, so we got 570 plus 225 contingency. So now
you're down to 775.
right.
you're
So
at
if we
5
take
million.
775 out of 4 and add it to the 4.2, we're under 5. We're not near 5.5.
You're at 5.
Yeah.
But the I'll caution you because I've seen the peaks and valleys. The problem you do is when you're jacking sales tax way up almost to the limit, you're increasing the fund balance, you're creating a larger budget gap. A gap you're not gonna be able to close once that downfall starts happening with the use of fund balance.
if it happens. And I'm just,
No, it's gonna happen.
When it happens.
when it happens. And that's the only cautionary part about this, I just wanna, I mean, because this is what it's gonna boil down to, unless we find something larger.
My opinion is the county should not be adjusting our budget based on things out of our control. The assessing portion that's a job of the towns. We have no control over that.
Yep. But
I have no problem getting the county levy down to a 0. That's really, I believe, our job here, and your job is to try to prevent any tax increase. But to start reducing our taxes because of the downfalls of the town, that's my take on this. I don't think you should be compensating for the municipality's downfalls.
Let's take a couple.
So this year, our maximum we can raise it is 2.2.
Yeah.
So last year was a 0, or pretty close to a 0. If we go this year with a 0, what will next year's levy potentially be?
Well, I guess it's probably going to be
Closer to 2 or
2,
1?
probably closer to 2.5 because you'll have carryover money.
You will.
Let's take a couple.
So I don't disagree with Bob Hadwell on the goal that we've always talked about is using cash rather than bonding. And with interest rates going up, bonding is going to be more expensive at this point. But when we're talking about bonding, you know, a $500,000 as opposed to $3 million or $6 million, I think that's when the cash position comes into play. And so,
Let's take a couple.
I think this is a good discussion, but I think it's a moot point at this point until we hear what the departments still wish to have added back into there. Because we could be saying it's 300,000, 1.5, 155.
Maybe they'll come and tell us what they want to take out.
This is,
Are you coming to tell us you're taking out?
I did that already.
this is, just 1,000-foot view, legislator Kelly. I understand, yeah. Yeah. Executive officer.
Well, no, I think that's a great segue for me to add a few thoughts to this. In crafting the budget this year, I think one of the things that we've really done well in the last few years is communicate as far as what our expectations are, what our goals are. But I think this budget, while it's not all the way there, I think it set the stage for the discussion we're having. But as it relates to the department, I think you'll find that pretty much every department is good with the budget that's been submitted. We've had good discussions. The two that really stick out this year in the process, different from other years, are the sheriff and the district attorney, but they're dealing with new situations, the bail reform law, discovery, and increased needs. So I think that's an interesting discussion. I think they would both agree they didn't get everything they wanted, but they feel good about where they're at. So just as a general note for the legislature, I don't think you're going to see over the coming weeks, outcry or anything like that. We really tried to put something that would work both for the county team, the legislature, and of course working with the treasurer on trying to, make some good financial decisions. So, I think you'll hear, one of the issues, that we did press up a little high on, and I'll just bring to the forefront, is the sheriff's jail revenue. Being at 850, that's a little higher than we usually do. But, we felt it was a good combination of, revenue decisions as well as trying to be frugal on the expense side, but yet give resources where it was needed, especially in the sheriff's and district attorney's office.
All right, do you have?
One more thing.
Yes, let's look.
I'm just glad this year that we had a lot of conversations between your office, Sean's office, our office. We were all included in having conversations on a daily basis with you about, what our thoughts on things, and you seem to be receptive to that, so I want to just say that I'm appreciative of that, and this is probably the best start to a budget session that I've been involved in.
So, Executive Ossenfort, Treasurer Bowerman, would you like the floor for anything more, or should,
No, I mean, I think, you summed up a lot of the highlights, a lot of the decision points. Again, we chose the numbers we chose because we felt comfortable with them, knowing that there would be probably some decisions being made moving forward, but I think we discussed a lot of the big points, and, we have the sheriff here who, will probably back up some of what I've already said, and as far as the DPW budget, not a whole lot of change there. I said his budget was an ice cream cone and even out.
yeah, it didn't look like much there based on Sean's comment page, yeah, but, all right, well then we might as well, that's our little overview discussion. As Martin said, we gotta listen to what everybody has to say, take a look at their budgets, but, I think a lot of it's gonna come down to what we were just talking about leading into this, something in those three categories to help eliminate as much of this as possible. With that said, Commissioner Mead, you're here today. Thank you for being here. And would you like to come on up and take a seat at the under the police lamp? Thank you. And I'll open up the floor to any of the legislators to ask questions about Eric's budget.
Thanks for having me.
Well, don't be surprised if it does go that fast. Really, when you look at your stuff here, 60,000 contractual salary increases, 31,000 increases in utilities. We know that's all going up. It's legitimate. Rents, leases, repairs, that's all probably a function of, leases that may be increasing and, expected volume on those things. County road fund, another 32 under contract for salary. I'm sure a lot of this is, and 69,000 increase in fringe benefits related to those salaries. So, why don't you talk to us a little bit, Eric, at least about some of those changes? You don't have that sheet in front of you, or do you?
I do not have that
All right.
sheet you're looking at.
All right, well, I don't think you need to get into detail about contractual salary increases because they are what they are, right?
Right.
We agreed to those as a legislature along with administration. What are your feeling, utilities, rents, leases, repairs, between the two, one's increasing 31, one's increasing 20,000, is it just, cost of doing business type?
Well, we're also opening up 2 buildings in 2023. We're going to be opening up new, shared service buildings, so there's going to be increasing utilities there, plus the current DPW facility that we occupy, so there's some unknowns of what our utility bills, water bills, et cetera, are going to be at the new facility as well as Fenner Road in Amsterdam.
Okay.
So there's definitely going to be, I'm sure we're going to see some hurdles along the way. Growing pains into that building, what we're going to have, that everything that's being built right now, will be under warranty except for our rooftop units, our water, our sewer, things like that, our electric.
Okay.
But there is extra expenses there that we haven't considered yet, like a generator for that building is going to be a must, when that building gets occupied for that computer program, for the state system and that down to Venner Road. That's something that wasn't added into the project. So, there is, other things that I'm working on right now to present to you guys that we're gonna have to take.
And what's something like that gonna run?
I'm guessing probably in the neighborhood of 250 to 350, all in, with the switch gear and the labor, and the bad thing is, I'm being told we're, about 10 months out on a generator before we can even see one. And that's a
That
diesel
might get
power.
us to 24 then, right?
Well,
Well, I'm wondering.
yeah, if we could secure, a standby, where, if we could get one from a rental agency in case we needed one, in dire emergency,
Yeah.
then yeah, that's absolutely.
But I mean, as you sit here today, perfect world, you'd be coming back to us for a draw from fund balance for 250 to 3 for a generator before the end of 23.
Unless that's something that, PSS had in their budget as they funded this project all along. If they had the extra revenues as they've had to perform the construction, then, it's not a conversation I've had with Jessica to see
Yeah.
if she has the funds. And I'm sure it's something we can have with her.
All right. County road fund, Eric, I see 58,000 increase in road maintenance and 41 in snow contract with the towns. Just any, story behind that.
Oh, the snow contract, that is with County Executive Ossenfort, deal that he's made with the towns for increases for fuel and things like that.
Okay.
50,000, 4448 for maintenance supplies,
Yeah.
800 to 850. Well, I always go after even more, but I take what County Executive
Okay.
will give me. We do, we have been fortunate, we do have a lot of extra funds in CHIPS and Pave New York and Extreme Winter Recovery that we've been bringing in, and I think we're in the neighborhood of spending close to $4 million this year on all our local roads throughout the county. But we did, 2 years ago, I was paving a road for $52 a ton for blacktop. This year it was 100. So everything has doubled in the last 2 years. If it wasn't for the CHIPS money, we wouldn't get. And this money is used all for maintenance. So that's wintertime, patching, single seals.
What was our CHIPS allotment this year? 4.5, 4.7?
The total CHIPS was in the neighborhood of 3, and then Extreme Winter Pave added about another $1 million, and I had $1 million rollovers.
All right, so pushing 5.
And we picked up an additional 580,000 in Pave Our Pothole fund that was funded by the state this year.
Okay.
And I think we paved 1 road with that money.
Okay.
I did lower, as I talked to you guys a few years ago, we started putting $75,000 in the equipment line. This year I reduced it to 60. Next year I'll probably reduce it down to 40 or 45. Like I said, it takes about 5 to 6 years to get there, and you're seeing it's coming to fruition. Now if we can just get the vehicles that we order, we'll be there. That's the next hurdle.
Anybody else got any questions? Mr. Diamond?
I was out the other day riding with my mother. My mother's riding with me, and she told me 2 things. And one of them was we were following a county band. I think it was AA 5588 or 89. It was a Dodge van, and it was rusted in the back. And she said to tell Commissioner me to replace that this year. So I don't know if that was on.
If it's a Dodge van, that belongs to DSS or the mail car, one or the other.
Oh, it's the mail car, don't worry about it. She told me to tell you that.
Okay.
Is that in the equipment budget?
I'm sure we can squeeze that in somewhere. If it's the mail vehicle, we had good luck trying to bid on some Liberty vans, minivans that were used up, and I think we got one a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, so.
Right.
This might be a question for Sean. Speaking of Banner Road, what appropriations will we lose once once we move into that building? I mean, we're leasing space now for some of that. I mean, how much, do you have an idea?
I don't know, Eric may be able to tell you, I believe they scheduled, because of not knowing when they were going to have, they put in VSS's budget with 8 months of, to be able to rent.
I think that contract's about 80,000 a year. And, also part of it is, in the long-term plan, by getting VSS out of here, you can renovate the clerk's office and get the district attorney out of the courthouse, which the state court system is really pressing us on. So it kind of allows us to do that as well. But right off the top of the gate, the lease down below, in law will come off, and there'll be some other, we're hoping through the consolidation of 3 departments that we can also find some efficiencies in staffing as well.
Well, I was just curious to that, because $80,000 might be spent on part of the generator or something that we're not going to be spending. So it's money that.
And there is, in my last conversation with Jess, there is some funding available in her budget. So already looking forward to, there's really 3 phases up there. This is just phase 1. So that might be something we can tap into. I'm pretty sure it is, but I just don't want to say it without asking her straight up. So we'll bring that up at there and here. But I believe that the number she said to me was in the ballpark of 900,000 that she's been, keeping aside for that project.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
We're also gonna need to pave that parking lot down there too, that'll be, I figured springtime I would get estimates on that, maybe blacktop and come down some.
Mhm.
It's nothing we have to worry about before April or May.
About parking lot?
Better road.
All right, anybody else got any questions for Eric and his budget?
What kind of bonding projects you have in the future?
The only project I would like to bond for, Legislator Headwell, is Commons Road Bridge. We just got a number on that bridge, because we discussed it here a couple weeks ago. Engineer's estimate for a superstructure replacement is about $890,000. Bridge New York application for that bridge is $1.5 million. Bridges, the bridge abutments and everything onto it, the piers are all in decent shape. What it needs is just a deck off, new deck, new guide rail sections. We do a clear span set on the piers that are there. We said just replace the structure. There's no stream permits needed. The Bridge New York application is a full-blown, you replace everything, and it doesn't need it. We could get that project probably, if we were to bond for it. Like I said, the engineering fees would be separate. The structure was $890. We could have the bridge open by next fall, November, if we were to bond for that in the next month or 2 for design. I'm confident we will get that project through Bridge New York in the next round. It'll take 4 years if we go that route. By the time it goes through design, DOT approval, award, construction, 4 years.
Where's Commons Road? That's up there.
Yeah, so if you go up 30A, you can shoot up over past the shed building, take it back down over the hill. So.
Executive Officer.
Just as a note, we are also opening up the bids on the west side beach night that all Fridays.
We're gonna have to bond for that.
Correct.
If that's mutual.
See,
We're gonna have to make some decisions.
I'm glad that Eric brought this up, because this is one of the things I would like to include in the budget and not be bonding for, and knowing that we have a 300,000 increase, if we could get, use our monies differently, that we could take care of that project, which is a huge project, and not be, bonding for it.
The problem is the weight restriction on the bridge. The school district can't cross it. So residents are having to shuttle their kids to the end of the road. The town can't cross it with a plow truck. They've got to plow the road with their plow truck and then go and hit it with a light duty truck to get across the bridge because the weight restriction that DOT put on it. There is another project I just released an RFP on last week, the floor down to eastern transfer station on 5S has totally come apart, and the rebar's coming up through the floor. So I released an RFP to see what the cost would be associated with that, because eventually what's gonna happen was trucks back in, rebar's gonna go through county ways, school district, whichever, start blowing their tires out, and they're gonna be looking at us to pay the bill. So I'll have those numbers in November.
Is that just a normal wear and tear?
Floor is 30 inches thick in spots, and that floor has been worn down a good 4 to 5 inches where the scraper blade has been hitting it in the center of that building, loading the trucks, so.
I guess that's one reason why they should be using the crane instead of a bucket.
Yeah, the issue with the crane is the cost and the lead time to get it here.
I know that they've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Sean, I see you, in your budget, you have a $322,000 increase in indebtedness payments, P&I. Were any of these part of that? What was,
That was for the other half, the 6 million we bonded this year for the year ago.
so the beech nut's not in there, anything he needs is not in there?
A little bit of the band money is for beach nut,
Yeah, but,
the band principal, but none of the bonds.
I mean,
Well,
What's it look-
no, there's no,
what's it looking like we're gonna need to bond for beech nut again?
That's tough to say, I mean, I think it's.
I heard anywhere in the range of 4 to 6 million, right? That's,
But we get some of it back, right?
This, no, but we are getting some of the other money back. And we got 2 million coming back from the DPW building once we get occupancy.
Let's say sweet to Joe.
Oh, I'm just.
So I mean, these are all things, I mean, you know, Martin, it was nice to talk about what we talked about going in, but obviously, I mean, some of these things are revelations as we peel back these budgets. You're right. I mean, legislator Hadwell.
Sean and Matt, is there anything right now that you guys have forgotten to put in the budget that you know right off the top of your heads?
No, I would say that, we've scheduled projects, with the remaining ARPA, so, we've talked about 1.5 million for the fair, 500,000.
No, I'm just saying, if, now and then what happens is when we get the sheet, it's like, oh, we forgot to put 30,000 in for this employee, or we did this, or we did that,
there's 4 errors in there, but the net is a positive for you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, he just sent out an email about that today.
Okay.
I said, just, Matt and Mike.
I'm just, I'm just saying, back to what Martin was saying, it's easy for us, I guess, to sit here early on and say, let's just jack up the fund balance to 5.2 and let's make this happen. But then when you realize we haven't, in our budget, we don't have interest expense related to beech nut. We don't have interest expense related to any bridge project we may need to bond for.
Well, typically, we've done the bridges, through our bonding, the beach site, it's a decision point. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee. I mean, there's also some talks with, private partnership, and this bid sort of kind of keeps feet to the fire, so to speak. So we really don't know which way that's gonna go. But I think it's important to know that it's out there.
Oh, of course, because it's going to involve something.
Yeah, I mean, the thing like the generator, I think that should be able to be covered through DSS. Really and truly, that transfer station, thankful because of the resolution you passed, that should be coming out of that budget. You know what I mean? Like we talked about, that shouldn't be a loser for us.
Sean, you want to say something?
The reason there's no interest, because when we bond, the year that we actually close on the bond, there's no payment.
You don't pay anything, right?
So
Okay.
any future bonding, even if you were to put some bonding resolutions up coming up in the next couple of months, you're still not gonna close on the bond until into 23. So your first payment wouldn't be till 24. And then your bond.
Okay. Good to know. Good to be reminded of. Yeah.
So will the milk truck tanker be able to cross Commons Road?
They do, although they shouldn't. They do.
boost the revenues in the sheriff's department with tickets.
Wait the measures on it.
We can always ask Eric. Eric, is enough money
Strike
in the
that
budget
from
to
the
transfer
record.
800,000 to Rich?
Yeah, we won't do anything else all year.
Are you comfortable with the fuel line that's been adjusted?
Well, I went by what our fuel usage was this year, not knowing what's gonna happen next year, so I took my best shot in the dark hit and said, because I'm hoping I'm still gonna have enough to get through this year, though.
Let's go back to you guys.
We'll just, yeah, I mean, we'll go with it, and if it comes August, and I'll let you know. I guess that's,
So essentially, what he gave you from what we adjusted this year, it's up about 30,000 more than what we adjusted. So will 30,000, if things stay the way they are, will it cover you?
I think we'll be close.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, we all set? Everybody? All right, hearing no more questions. Commissioner Meade, thank you for your time. Thank you. For your hard work. Sheriff Smith, Officer Russ, if you guys want to come on up. Well, Sheriff, another great job this year, you and your team, and certainly some deltas here for you coming up, but a lot of them were long needed, and obviously when you look at your sheriff jail budget, and you know that your increase is almost 1.3 year over year, but that you're going to be pulling in 850 or more in income, which we know you'll do. I know you're worried about it, but you've been doing that so far. It really, in my estimation, helps because you're an income-producing cost center to substantiate whatever increases you're looking for. And then when you look at the increases on the comment page, and you see that, 650 of it is, you can't do a damn thing about, it's contractual, and that's half of it, So, and obviously, the overtime you need to run your department, the new positions, we were already, talking about those, right? I quite frankly don't have any questions or any problems with what you proposed. But certainly we'll turn the floor over to anybody else who wants to ask any questions. Unless you want to describe anything, Jeff, the sheet we have in front of us, it says 87 for resolution and 22 for additional dispatch and deputy. We know about that. 87,000 for new positions, another dispatcher and deputy. 650 in contractual salary increases, 185 in increased overtime shift differential, and that's all contractual. 50,000 for gas and fuel, which we know cost continues to increase. 47 for increased special supplies. 150 for technical equipment, maybe you can talk about that, and then for the jail. And 176 increase in jail expenses. How about those last two anyway? Anything you can tell us about those?
Yeah, so the 150 is a specific item, it's actually an X-ray machine for the jail.
Okay.
So ever since no cash bail, the way people come to the jail has changed a little bit. So you used to get arrested on the street by accident or by investigation. You didn't expect to come to jail that night, so you weren't prepared to come into the facility. Well, now people aren't coming to jail when they get arrested. They're coming to jail 2, 3, 6 months down the road when they go to court and they're anticipating coming to jail. So the amount of contraband and the techniques that the incarcerated persons are using has changed drastically. And I'm trying to get ahead of the contraband issue and officer safety with this machine, which may sound extravagant, but the increase and change of the way the jail operates is much different today than it was years ago. So that's a one-time purchase
Okay,
item.
and Sean's got 176 increases in jail expenses. I'm sure that's a collection of. lines.
Yeah, I would look, I mean,
Yeah.
it's computers, it's, I'd have to look and go through exactly what Sean has increased there. But it's, nothing else is drastic.
No,
It's a combination of things, I assume. Sean, is that what you put in?
Well, for example, the EMS contract,
Yeah, that went up because of MAT, a new law that started October 1st, medicated assisted treatment. So the criminal justice system over the last 2 years has changed.
You just said Matt, the guy behind you's face went like, what?
A different MAT.
one T.
The criminal justice system has changed drastically over the past couple of years. In the jail, we've got MAT and HALT Act, which are two things that have affected us financially and operation-wise. You have police reform, bail, no cash bail, discovery, legalization of marijuana, the gun laws. All of those things have changed the way we operate and the amount of work across the board in both divisions, patrol and the jail.
that was $80,000 of that.
Yeah.
Jail. They also, he's got, increase in med fees, food fees. Those went up.
And that 80,000 for Matt, it could be less next year, but it also could be more. No way of knowing how many people in the facility will be addicted to opioids, and that's the requirement by law.
What does MAT stand for?
Medication-assisted treatment, so we now have to provide medication to anyone who's addicted to opioids when they come into the facility.
So it's Suboxone and things like that.
Correct, we have to offer 3 different types of medication by law.
Who delivers that medication?
So Eastern Medical Support, and that's why the increase is in that medical line that we pay Eastern Med. They stepped up to the plate and hired a nurse practitioner as a specific clinician for that program. We had to write policy. We had to get a plan approved by OASIS. All that combined, we had to provide, work with our pharmacy to make sure we could get these medications provided. If someone comes in on the methadone clinic, we have to work with St. Mary's to keep them on that clinic, on that program as they arrive. All that legwork had to be done, and it went into effect October 1st of this year.
So talking about the x-ray equipment, do the staff have to be trained in that?
Yes,
So we have money in there also for training?
Yeah.
For things like that?
that comes as part of the purchase.
I would suppose there's maintenance that's involved in it, and plus guaranteed warranties.
There will be, it comes with a 5-year plan. So in this cost that I put in the budget would take care of us for 5 years. But then there would be maintenance if there was something that broke or.
So is that a recurring cost, or it's the $150,000?
No, it's $150,000. There'll be a recurring cost, which is much less, and I can't tell you what that will be in 5 years, but it'll be just a maintenance.
Be more maintenance. But the 150 is just this year, or is it 5 years times 150?
No, it's $150,000 for the unit and 5 years worth of maintenance.
And so when you talk about contraband, you're talking about weapons, you're talking about people swallowing balloons with drugs.
So far, it's narcotics, drugs, things like that, but I don't want it to be weapons.
And how do you handle that now?
Cameras are rolling.
Yeah, there's certain things that it's inappropriate to talk about our procedures.
Well, I figured that out just from your look on your face. So historically, in a very uncomfortable position.
Well, it's, the correction officers do a great job, and sometimes that's found during the booking process. Sometimes it's found after they're in the facility with other inmates sharing information. And when it's found, it's confiscated if we're able to. And then someone is held accountable and arrested for promoting prison contraband.
But swallowing balloons, for instance, is not something that's going to may not be found immediately with a rubber glove.
That's correct. Unfortunately, it's usually found after the fact, after it's been released. Yeah, digested, released, and either being used and someone is under the influence, or it's found during a search, or like I said, other inmates, provide information against each other.
Better hope that balloon don't pop. They would OD, right?
That's the type of things that we want to avoid in the facility, especially.
Have any COVID costs that are reoccurring, or
We have had COVID issues, believe it or not, more recently than during the height of COVID. About what, a month ago, 3 weeks ago? We had, personnel, but we also had 8 inmates, but no costs. We provide medical care for them anyways, it's required by law.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Sheriff, the overtime costs, 185, is there any, I know they're probably always gonna have a little bit, but is there any, one employee, is there any way to, is that number, is that 185,000 a number that's probably gonna be the number that's, you're always gonna have, or if you hire one more person, does it, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it'll ever go away, but what would be the ideal?
It doesn't go away, sir, to be honest with you, it wouldn't matter how many staff we hire. We try to control overtime, we don't dish it out, it's overtime driven by call volume, and driven by the times that calls come in, and the types of calls that come in. If you're working a 6 to 6 shift and you happen to catch a real bad accident at 5:35, you're there till 7 o'clock until that can be cleaned up, and it's an hour overtime.
Maybe I wasn't thinking about all that kind of overtime, I was more thinking about people not being at work and then someone covering a shift, that kind of,
Rarely does that happen.
Okay.
We spend a lot of overtime that gets reimbursed to us, and when the check comes back, it goes into the general fund, and that's with our courts as security. It's with Stop DWI Fund for DWI shifts. It's with events and details at the schools that they want us to cover sporting events. It's traffic safety grants.
So a lot of this, like you said, is driven by calls.
It is. All that money is spent out and charged, so it does come back to the county, but it just doesn't offset the overtime line. And there's no way of knowing how much that, the juvenile transports, which we're required to do by law, we could get an order right now in the fax machine for tomorrow. And we might have to spend 10, 12 hours of overtime because we gotta go to Tupper Lake to pick one up, to take them to Auburn, to come back to Montgomery County, and it's our responsibility, but that isn't built into our schedule system because we don't know what's coming.
I know, I was thinking more of this was people covering other people, not what you were explaining. So
Very minimal, yeah.
Legislator Diamond, I know this is your committee. Any insights or questions for the sheriff?
My only insight would be, I think the sheriff and undersheriff presented a pretty sharp pencil budget.
All right, Legislator Patel.
Sheriff, just looking over, you don't have anything for motor vehicle equipment, is that, we're using ARPA money for that, or?
No, it is in the budget.
It is, what line is it?
On page 17.
Right at the top, well, it's about,
Motor vehicle.
yeah, we asked for 4 cars, 3 marked and 1 unmarked, and it appears that we were given 3.
How is the fleet now? Can you tell us about the mileage on them?
The fleet is much better than it was in 2018 when I got here. We're trying to replace vehicles when they get over 200,000 miles. That's why I've consistently been asking for 2, 3, 4 cars. One of these cars is an unmarked. Once we replace this unmarked, we should be good with our investigation unit for 5, 6 years because they don't put the miles on it like a patrol does. Believe it or not, the Dodges that we bought in 19 are getting old and tired already. And, it doesn't take long at 30,000 miles a year.
A few deer.
To rack up the mileage on a patrol car.
Rack up, no pun intended.
Yeah.
The deer.
Legislator Keller?
Water and boating you put in, is that for new equipment?
It was for a new motor on our patrol boat, and I had told the executive and the treasurer that, we needed to make cuts. That is something we would love to have and would benefit us, but however, it's not a necessity that we can spend without it. One thing I will say is, as you talk to Eric about other expenses, and I put in capital project stuff, but there are items in the facility that I've emailed everyone about that have got to be addressed. And we cannot continue to kick the can down the road. And that's the showers, the water, things I don't know if there's money in for capital projects or how we're gonna go about those things, but we've been barking up this tree since I started, and it's a problem.
Sean, any of that being addressed through capital or no?
It was included in the capital plan.
Okay.
But it's gonna be up to the legislature what capital projects they're gonna actually want to bond for or pay for. When the time comes to bring them to fruition.
You know, it's this 26-year-old facility that's used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, you know, in all essence, it's 75 years old.
What happened to the study on the well?
I believe there was enough pressure, right, Eric? But we also believe that it was gonna be astronomical.
Yeah, because of the distance, because it's a mile out, for what it was gonna cost to build it, it was, geez, Ken Rose has the exact numbers, or maybe Penny knows, I don't know, 2 million, 3 million, yeah, it sounds about right.
So Eric, we're down a hot water heater right now, correct, because of the water?
We are correct, we only have one
operation.
domestic water heating unit at that facility, and if that goes down, there's no hot water in that facility. I'm waiting for, the parts have been on order, the contracts are signed, we're waiting for the parts to get here. And it's because of the water, and I ordered a spare to put on the shovel at the same time.
So the village has done nothing about trying to clean up the water, it's iron, is that the biggest issue?
This iron, calcium, everything that's in it. So right now, as part of the ARPA funds, the resolution that I put up a couple months ago, or that Matt put up, to use for critical maintenance, I'm using a portion of that. We're doing the complete water analysis. We've got a company in there that's testing all the water where it needs to be. And the biggest problem that this company is telling us is it's the end of the run. And all the crap is going there. And what we're going to get by the system that we're gonna have to put in to treat it and to backwash, to backwash this system, our water rates are gonna really go up for the water that's gonna be needed to flush the equipment that's gonna need to go in there.
So I guess we
You
need to
connect into the next house down below, man.
So we need to do a cost analysis on whether or not it pays to do that, or it pays to
Connect to the well, correct.
build a tank and spend the $2 million to get water. I mean, because you cannot have water at the village. Right. It has to be good water, and obviously the village, town, whatever it is not going to provide it. So I think that's.
Just so that everyone knows, the jail uses 8% of the village's, what they pump, and we're paying 46% of their budget. So we got a heck of a deal for the water we get.
Yeah, the wall, like I said, I don't know when the boiler tubes are gonna be here to fix that water heater.
So they're in a water district, right? Isn't that a small water district?
It's the Glen District.
But there's not, I mean, basically it's that road, right?
And Dunkin' Donuts is another district.
In a different district, right? So it's going through town of Glen also. And they're upcharging.
My concern is what's gonna do to our new equipment, new building.
An update on the jail revenues, as of October 1st, we had brought in 701,000. So estimating with the incarcerated persons we have now, we should be around 950 with just boarding, and then 1.2-ish. But the 850 does concern me because eventually the ceiling's gonna drop. I just like to make sure everyone is aware of that.
Where were we last year at this time?
About the same.
The same.
Yeah, last year, I think we're almost identical, actually. Close.
So what is the inmate mix between federal prisoners and local?
So right now, today, we have 13 feds, 1 from Schenectady County, 2 from Fulton County, 1 from Lewis County, 1 from Schoharie, and 5 from Otsego. So that's 13, 18, 19, 22, 23,
How many
23,
feds?
85, 13 feds.
The Fed rate is different than the local rate,
It is.
and
The federal rate is $128 a day based on a contract with the Marshal Service. The local rate is $90 a day based on a resolution approved by this board.
right, is there any, do they adjust that? Do you get rate increases? Do you have to ask for rate increases?
You have to ask, and it is not really advised that often. We are actually, believe it or not, getting one of the best rates.
But could put you at risk of
It-
losing.
Yes. Kind of like the hand, the PJ sort of thing.
On the other hand, the other inmates from the other counties at the 90, is there any room to increase that, or is that contractual?
Well, no, because usually sheriffs will support other sheriffs and give them a better rate than even that. So, you know, they may be able to give it for 75, 80 as a favor from sheriff to sheriff. So,
Seems like a loser.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Thanks to your friends.
All right, any other?
Just going back to the water, is that something, if you did the wells and the tanks, is that something that could be shared with the shared services building also, or would it? So it just seems like
Still
the
have
situation that
3/4
we're in
of a mile.
is not ever gonna get any better, so it's something that we may have to take,
Bite the bullet.
you know, I hate to say it, but,
And now you got the county building out there yet too.
right, that's not, yeah, so now you've got two facilities.
But Eric, do you think your water won't be in as bad a shape as ours because you're not at the end? Is that possible?
That's what, this company that we've hired to do some testing on everything up there is thinking, but it's still gonna be, because of the condition of the water, we're still gonna be, needs to be treated,
But the equipment to treat
maybe less than.
1,000 gallons a day as opposed
Yeah, 'cause
to,
we won't use nowhere near the amount of water
right.
that facility uses. But, you know, the other thing you're gonna have to take into consideration is, what if we do that, then we're gonna have to come up with a way to monitor the sewer. Because we're still gonna have to pay for,
Well, you can meter your water from your wells.
if they'll accept that, you know. But there's,
Water in.
when we're washing trucks, you know, or when Jeff's washing vehicles, that water, a lot of that's not going down the sanitary sewer. You know, depending on where we're washing, if we're washing in the walkway, it is, because it's oil separator, but there's washing that goes outside.
Thank you.
So that 660 was in the budget for revenue this year, since we're at 700. Would this board support if I did a resolution raising that revenue by 50 for the car that we removed from the budget in this budget the next month or two?
What was that, Jeff?
So I have 660 budgeted as jail revenue for 2022. I'm already at 701.
You're looking at.
So if I did a resolution for the car that was removed out of the budget and increase my revenue,
Absolutely. I don't see that. Anybody else have a problem with that?
I know it'll make the deputy in the lobby very happy.
why did she got one of the old ones?
Yeah.
We already made the balloon.
I was just making sure we didn't amend that already.
Is this great? No, we already made the
I
balloon.
didn't think I had.
Sheriff, feel free to put that through. I think you would have our support.
All right, thank you.
No,
Put the
it's
resolution
in
through.
2022.
It's in this year.
Yeah, it wouldn't affect the budget
Yeah.
for next year though.
All right, any other questions or discussion with the sheriff and the undersheriff?
Let's get back to the car thing.
Why can't we wait till November?
Oh, you want to wait till November?
Yeah, I don't think I'll get it done.
Let's
So your revenue is gonna be up this year.
It already is, yes.
What if we took 2 cars out of that? You're gonna have a layover to next year, right?
Yeah, you probably could if that's what you wanted to do.
Discussion we can have.
I don't have to vote. No, we're doing all this
Yeah.
training and everything.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm laughing with you, not at you. You're right.
Good discussion to have.
Yep. All right, any other questions or discussion? Anything anybody else wants to talk about? next Tuesday, we have our committee meetings, and after that, we'll be seeing departments, DSS, mental and public health, and personnel, and Cheryl will be getting the sheets out if you want to start making amendments now. You're going to have till when to get them in. Remember, they won't need to be in until the week after next, after we, I will remind you.